Alright guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to give you a Mage leveling guide for WOTLK Classic. This video will be relevant for people who are playing on fresh servers, but also people jumping straight into Northrend content. First of all, we'll cover the most frequently asked question in the Mage community: should you play a Frost spec or a Fire spec? Then the best tips and tricks to speed up your leveling, the best talent build and glyphs to use, the playstyle to use, weapon progression meaning caster weapons, and lastly, your stat priority for leveling. So, should you play Frost or Fire spec? My simple answer to that question is do whatever the hell you want to do. But if you're leveling on a fresh server, I definitely think it's better to go Frost. Fire spec really needs a good amount of spell power before it can start outperforming Frost. Also, if you're leveling purely by AoE farming, then Frost is definitely going to be better, although that's going to be a difficult thing to do on a WOTLK launch because you're going to have competition for actually killing enemies in the first place. So if you're leveling normally, solo, while questing, that's why I think Fire will be better because of Living Bomb fast tagging. You can just run around, quickly put up Living Bombs, and Living Bomb doesn't need to do its damage for the mob to get tagged by Living Bomb. And then normally what you do is you clump up those enemies together, and Living Bomb damage is utterly mental and they'll just blow each other up. Talk more about that in the playstyle section. Both specs are also pretty good for dungeon farming, whether you're doing it solo or with a group. But personally I wouldn't play Fire until I'm level 60 because obviously that's when you unlock Living Bomb and that's when it starts to kick off. So my first trick is dungeon farming. There's plenty of dungeon farming guides out there on YouTube right now. Now this is more for the experienced mage, so I'm presuming most experienced mages probably aren't watching this video. These farms are pretty difficult to do and to pull off, but they will give nearly 1 million experience per hour, so that's definitely the fastest way to actually level in Wrath of the Lich King. But if you prefer a more chilled leveling experience, then obviously stay around and watch this video. So the second thing to get definitely is your movement speed enchant. This makes kiting mobs much easier and just helps you pull off those kill execute phases. If you're boosting a mage or leveling on a fresh server, I'd recommend taking advantage of the pre-punch Scourge Evasion event. You can see a little bit of the gear there. Very good stats, lots of spell power and lots of spell haste, and then when you get more and more pieces of a set you get increased damage to undead, which is very useful because a lot of mobs in Northrend are undead. You want to check out my pre-patch guide for more information on that, I'll link it in the description. And if you want to go a little bit extra sweaty, I'd recommend getting flasks, food and weapon oils all the way during your leveling journey. Now weapon oils won't work on items higher item level than 165. Somewhere weapons are 164, this means you can put it on a somewhere weapon, and what it normally means is your somewhere weapon is going to be better than any upgrade you get until about level 80 because you can put a weapon oil on it. Especially as there are undead specific weapon oils available in the Scourge Evasion event which increase your spell power by a total of 100 against undead, so they're quite nice. Fifthly, remember to always be strafing between blizzards, so your blizzard slow effect, we'll talk more about this later, obviously has a duration. And when your blizzard has, stopped being used, you can strafe a little bit to the left before you use your next blizzard so that you can kite better, and it should ensure that the mobs never get into melee range before you've killed them all. Now, your character is definitely more powerful in Wrath of the Lich King, and mobs are definitely weaker, so kiting with blizzard has definitely become much easier. Remember, you can use ice block to clump packs up as well. If you're doing a really big pull, you want them all together, you want to secure that AoE pull, then ice block, let the mobs clump up together, break ice block, frost nova, blink and do a runner. You can also use ice block or blink to prevent fall damage if you don't have reagents for slow fall, but in Wrath of the Lich King very luckily there is a glyph that means you never have to use a reagent anymore for the slow fall spell, but just something to bear in mind, when you use ice block or blink, you will get down the hill that you're trying to get down much faster than using slow fall, because obviously slow fall will slow your movement speed. If you want to get down there quickly, use an ice block. Sometimes you're doing quests and there's a mob in the way that you don't need to kill and you've got to go and get a quest item. What you can do is use polymorph or nova to just distract that enemy, get it out of melee range of you, pick up your quest item and then again do a runner, rather than having to waste time killing that enemy. Now guys, if you're looking for the best leveling guide you can get for Wrath of the Lich King, I definitely recommend Rest XP. This guide's been made by the best world record holding speed levelers in the game, so I definitely know what they're talking about. There'll be a link to that in the description, obviously as always with my discount code. Now when it comes to talents, I'm going to show you the best kind of AoE leveling frost build and fire build that you can go for. If you're going to go for more of a single target chill solo leveling build, then all you do is swap out the AoE talents to single target talents, like for instance Frostbite and Ice Shard, get those instead, and get any kind of talent that will improve the ability of Fireball or Frostbolt depending on what spec you're going for. I mean, to be honest, you can even level in Arcane if you want to as well. Now this is your Frost build. This is your typical Blizzard Strafe AoE kiting build. You can start doing this at level 21 when you can put a point in Improved Blizzard. This is the essential part of this build. You don't even have to actually max out Improved Blizzard. Some people like putting a couple less points in there. As long as you got Permafrost, the slow effect should be 70%. The thing as a beginner mage, having that 70% movement speed reduction on the mobs that you're kiting is definitely going to be advantageous to you, picking up the mage playstyle. The talents are mainly focusing on just increasing frost damage like piercing ice, and we definitely want stuff like Cold Snap. This resets the cooldown on Ice Block so we can use that more often. And then we get Cold as Ice that reduces the cooldown of Cold Snap too. And we definitely want Ice Barrier to prevent a lot of damage without it draining our mana, like how Mana Shield works. Then we definitely want the Water Elemental and Enduring Winter. The Water Elemental has a really cool freezing effect that can be useful on AoE pulls as well. We've also got a new talent here called Shattered Barrier. When your Ice Barrier falls off, when it's, the damage is dealt, then you'll do an AoE Frost Nova for free. And personally, I like to off-spec into Arcane Concentration, so I'm just really picking up these two talents here in tier 1 of Arcane to get down the tree for that cheeky Arcane Concentration. You've got 10% of entering a clear casting state whenever you deal damage. When it comes to glyphs, definitely recommend Frost Nova so you can get a little bit more out of your Blizzard in the first little bit of the AoE pull. And then I like to go for Mage Armor, very simply for the better mana efficiency, and honestly there's not much of a great glyph set you can get pre-Wrath of the Lich King, so obviously in the pre-patch. You may want to go for something like the Glyph of Evocation as well. It's not that bad either, but if you're playing a mage very, very well, then you shouldn't ever take damage, and you should obviously just drain your mana, not your health. When it comes to minor glyphs, you're just picking for their convenience. Definitely want the slow fall one as early as possible, so I don't have to have light feathers on me. Arcane Intellect reduces the mana cost, and then you can also get Frost Ammo, which just increases its duration by 30 minutes for whenever you're going to use it. But to be honest, you're mainly going to use this more in the fire build I'm going to give you, so you can go for something else if you want. Most of them are just kind of gimmicky stuff anyway. So this is the Dirty Chad fire build. Obviously the first key talent of any fire build that we need is Ignite. Whenever you deal a crit, 40% of that damage will be dealt as a dot over 4 seconds. And this does include AoE spells, if they can crit. Then we want Burning Sword for the rare occasion that we have to hard cast a fireball. We're definitely going to get Pyroblast, but honestly we won't use Pyroblast an incredible amount. It's mainly there to get us Blast Wave later on, which is a very key ability too. Then we have Master of the Elements, so your crits will now refund 30% of their base mana. There's loads of great mana efficiency talents in the fire tree. So first of all, there's that. We also have Empowered Fire. Whenever you get an Ignite proc, 2% of your base mana is returned to you. And then also we get 50% continued mana regeneration while in combat with the Pyromaniac talent. Now the oddball one here is Blazing Speed. I absolutely love getting Blazing Speed because it really works well with the playstyle. You will get hit by mobs from time to time, but it's not that much of an issue because you're going to be running around with Ice Armor, which will slow them, and then, sometimes you get the Blazing Speed proc, which helps massively when clumping up enemies and kiting. And then a lot of the talents here, like playing with fire, critical mass, firepower, you're just getting them to increase your fire damage and your crit chance. Definitely want combustion, we're going to be using that as often as we can. Molten Fury is great for finishing off enemies when they're below 35% health because it's 12% increased damage. We definitely want Dragon's Breath, and there's this new talent here called Firestarter. Whenever you use Blast Wave or Dragon Breath, you get a totally free of mana Flame Strike, and it's an instant cast. And we're going to be using that to finish off the mobs after our little rotation. Then we get Points and Burnout. Definitely Living Bomb, that is the key part of this build, and I like to off-spec into Arcane Concentration. If you want the extra crit damage from Burnout and then 1 point less in Arcane Concentration when you jump into no-friend content, you can also do that. One thing to bear in mind though, guys, is if you're off-specing into Arcane, then you won't have the 3% hit chance from Precision, so what you're going to need is you need hit chance from your gear. Normally that isn't so much of an issue if you're a very well geared raider, because all you need is 5% hit chance to get hit cap on mobs that are 2 levels higher than you, so normally you're covered. And then also Draenei need 4%, so just something to bear in mind. You're going to have to keep a decent amount of hit gear, well only like 4% hit gear is probably not a lot of hit rating while you're leveling up if you're going to go for arcane concentration. If you have absolutely no hit gear for some reason, then yeah, you're probably better off specking into precision instead. Now for glyphs, I like to go for Frost Nova. This is very important in our rotation because we blast wave mobs in a Frost Nova, and we don't want that to break ideally because we want to follow up straight away with a Flame Strike. And this glyph here just kind of helps that process. It just helps with the kill phase. You'll understand later in the playstyle section. And I like to go for evocation because sometimes you do actually take damage from time to time when doing a fire build. It is more risky, it's more ballsy. You don't have the safety of slowing effects to be able to constantly kite. You are getting closer to mobs and just kind of relying on your insane bursty AoE damage to finish them off. But when it comes to minor glyphs, you know, just the same as the Frost spec. So when it comes to playstyle, things are obviously going to change depending on what level you are. When you're very low level, you can't really do that much AoE stuff until you're about level 14 and you unlock Arcane Explosion, and then level 16 when you unlock Flame Strike. So round about that level, all you do is you try to collect about 3 or 4 mobs, Frost Nova them, Flame Strike, Arcane Explosion as much as you can. And that is the most efficient way to a level because you're obviously taking down enemies, well, 3 at a time rather than 1 at a time. When you're level 21, this is when you can start doing Blizzard kiting. It's very straightforward, you know, you clump mobs together on your mount. You do get your mount level 20 now, by the way. So you clump them together, put them in a Frost Nova, try to get to max range, then Blizzard Strafe, Blizzard Strafe. You know the jam here. There's loads and loads of videos of people doing mage kiting and stuff like that you can check out for more references. Then sometimes you may need to use Arcane Explosion to actually finish off the mobs, but like I said, in Wrath of the Lich King, characters are more powerful and mobs are weaker. Then when you get to level 60 and you unlock Living Bomb, that's when you can become a real Fire Mage Chad and start doing some fire AoE leveling. But I would only recommend doing this if you've managed to gain some fairly decent spell power gear from obviously Classic WoW. Obviously in Classic WoW, vanilla spell power gear is quite rare, so you may have to wait until you're like level 61, 62 and jumping into Sirocco Forest, you know, and acquire some really good spell power quest raw pieces from Hellfire Peninsula and Zangarmarsh before you can start doing this Living Bomb strategy. Because it really is a glass cannon build, it relies on you killing the mobs before they're any threat to you. Now, if you don't want to do Fire Mage leveling, then fine, just carry on leveling as Frost. You know, Blizzard Strafe, it's pretty straightforward. But if you want to try something new, then try out Fire Mage. So first of all, make sure you've got Ice Armor up, Mana Shield, and other buffs like Arcane Intellect and Mana Gems, and Dampen Magic if you need it. What you're going to do is you're going to run around and pull mobs normally with Living Bomb. You don't really want to be mounted up. You might want to mount up like in the beginning just to get to a location, but you really need to get Living Bomb on the mobs as soon as possible. And your pull phase should only last about the same duration as Living Bomb. You can also use Cone of Cold to help with kiting, but normally, honestly, it's best just to let the mob hit you when you've got Ice Armor up and keep running. You've got your movement speed increased to keep you ahead, and you've also got the chance for Blazing Speed to proc. Then clump all the mobs and pop a Frost Nova, and then your Living Bombs are all going to blow up and do ridiculous damage, and normally the mobs will be at about half health just from your Living Bombs blowing up on top of each other. Then you're very simply going to Blast Wave, and hopefully they won't get knocked back because they're still in a Frost Nova. In fact, you might want to wait for your Living Bombs to pop off before you use the Frost Nova, because then obviously Living Bomb could affect Frost Nova. So Blast Wave, then after the Blast Wave, your instant Flame Strike, and then you Dragon's Breath the mobs on the Flame Strike so they continue to take damage from the ticking Flame Strike and they don't run out of the Flame Strike area effect. And normally you can just finish them off with Arcane Explosion. And then you eat, drink, and repeat. Now, this kind of playstyle, it will drop your health. But the thing is, that's not really an issue, because if you were playing Frost, then you would have to stop and drink anyway. You are going to have to stop and eat and drink. Your mage food covers that anyway. But what you will find is, when you're doing AoE pulls like this, you will kill the mobs faster. Definitely faster if you pull it off properly than you ever will, you know, doing the Blizzard strategy. So basically, Blizzard strategy is safer and easier. Living Bomb strategy is more difficult, it's more risky, but it's faster and more efficient. There you go, that's the TLDR. When it comes to weapon progression guide, Nick has made us a very detailed caster weapon progression list. It includes staves, one-handed swords, and obviously maces for priests, and also includes offhands and wands. So everything that casters needs while leveling up is on that Google Drive spreadsheet. To gain access to it, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, go to the description of my subscriber only video on my page, and it will be there. Now when it comes to gearing and your stat priority, your main objective, the most important thing to get is 5% hit, and it doesn't matter what level you are. When you're low level, you really want to try and pick up hit pieces as early as you can. And then it's spell power, spell crit, and then spell haste. So when you're really low level and you don't have access to spell power pieces, in Wrath of the Lich King that does change a lot. You start to see more spell power pieces earlier on, so try and get those as often as you can. But anyway, so when you're really low level, just focus on big intellect and stamina pieces. But like I said, get your hit chance as early as you possibly can. You want to try and get 5%. Remember that Draenei only need 4%. However, remember that you get 3% with your precision talent. So Draenei's, if they have that precision talent, they won't need a single hit piece. However, if you're not a Draenei, then you will need to get 1% hit with your gear. And that will probably only be like one hit piece, so you know, Bob's your uncle. But if you're playing fire low level for some reason, I mean, you still can do it, it's not that bad to be fair, you know, you want something new, then yeah, you are going to have to stack more hit chance from your gear. And then obviously get spell power pieces as early as you can. My advice is to check the auction house. Sometimes there's really good auction house pieces that have decent spell power on them, normally greens. Don't be spending too much money on blues though or anything like that, or less obviously that you can afford it. But remember, some spell power pieces just have spell power on them, but they don't have any primary stats. Don't get too many of those pieces, because then you have a really small mana pool and a really small HP pool, and you get one-shotted, or you don't have enough mana to fully pull off all of your blizzards. So make sure you have a balance if you're going to get those kind of gear pieces of good intellect stamina pieces and spell power pieces. Then when you're higher level and you're jumping into Outland, obviously the gear changes to become much better. You normally just get great spell power pieces and spell crit pieces, so just focus on, you know, getting crit and haste and spell power pieces. Just remember to keep the hit cap. You know, if you switch into 5 spec, then your hit cap is going to change to 5%. But normally you just want spell power and spell crit pieces, and then, you know, if a haste piece becomes available and it's better than something you have because it has more spell power, then, you know, it's probably going to be worth getting. But ideally, you know, it's all about spell power and spell crit. I know it says stack crit and haste pieces, but, you know, you just want your crit and haste pieced, and then just get a haste piece, like, if there's no better option, basically. But anyway, guys, that's going to be the end of the video there. My name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.